We can go ahead and get started with some introductions on our side. So again, welcome to everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Danielle Sander. I'm on the Career Services team here at CareerFoundry. So I work with students and alumni throughout their job search. Today's webinar, how to get the most of our online bootcamp. So it'll be a question and answer session with 3 of our fabulous alumni from our UX and UI design courses. We'll talk about their bootcamp journey, including how they chose the course, getting through the program, searching for jobs, and getting started in a new career. So just put your questions in the Q&A and we will get through as many as possible. And over to my colleague, Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and I'm on the student team here at CareerFoundry. I am one of the student advisors, so I help students with anything that is not related to the course material throughout their experience from start to finish. So something like onboarding, community management, community building. If anything happens that kind of throws you off course throughout your program, then I'm here to help. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ewa.
Hi there, I'm Ewa and I'm a UX designer working fully remotely for the company in Warsaw. I'm very much into strategy, so that's the thing that I'm doing mainly in my daily job. Beside that, I finished the CareerFoundry course. I think 2 years ago already. Yeah, that's it for now. Waiting for questions.
Okay, great. And how about Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a product designer at Raleigh Health now. I'm working on digital health apps. Before starting UX, I had like 0 design background, so it's totally okay if you have the same thing. I was going to school for business marketing and was a marketing intern at ShopStyle. And then I got interested in UX because my manager at the time gave me the creative freedom to do like a lot of social media assets and email marketing. And so that's why I'm here today.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, Aladrian.
Hey everyone, my name is Aladrian Goods. I am a product and content designer at Intuit, and I work on our professional tax software. So you may be familiar with like TurboTax and QuickBooks, but I work on the software that your accountant would use to do your taxes. And prior to CareerFoundry, I was working in customer service roles as well as marketing event roles. And really excited to be here today and kind of share how I transitioned from that into my design practice.
Great, thank you everyone for the introductions. We can go ahead and get started with our first question, something from the beginning. So how did you decide to choose the bootcamp that you chose, which is CareerFoundry? So what were some of the things that were important to you? We can just start with you, Aladrian, since you were just with us.
Sure, no problem. So I finished CareerFoundry in March of 2019, but I started this journey to try to figure out what my career would be back in like, I think December of 2016. And when I learned about UX, I knew I wanted to do something like that, you know, or pick a program that really had good people, that had quality content, and that would help me get a job in the field that I wanted to do. Now I looked at a lot of different programs, from Design Lab to Springboard to even some extension programs hosted by some universities here locally in Texas, or even at national level. But what really made the difference was that every person I talked to at CareerFoundry was really intentional about understanding what my goals are and showing me how the program could match those goals. So that's why I went with CareerFoundry. Pricing, because you know, things like pricing, content were all really comparable, but the people really made the difference.
Thank you for that. Megan, would you like to share what you were looking for?
Yeah, I can share the same sentiment. When I was looking at different types of boot camps for UI design, I was really interested in like going into perhaps visual design or even user interface design. So I made sure that I was reaching out to similar people who have taken that course. from CareerFoundry, and I just asked about their general experience, what they recommended, and yeah, they had nothing but good things to say about CareerFoundry. So I was pretty set on I wanted to go to CF, but I was actually looking at General Assembly and Design Lab, but I decided on CareerFoundry because I wanted it to be more flexible to my own schedule. We have the option to do part-time and just make sure that I digest everything at my own speed and at my own pace. So that was really important to me. And flexibility that CareerFoundry has was another one. And then I also looked at the career success rate for CF. I saw that it was like 96%. So I was like, okay, that's a confirmation. I'm going. So yeah.
Awesome. Great reasons. Eva, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, for me it was extremely important that I can do this remotely, online, so that it's flexible, and the feedback with tutors. So so it's not like I'm doing my exercise and it's somewhere and it's waiting for I don't know what, but I usually received feedback in 1 or 2 days, and the feedback was always like giving me tips how to improve. So yeah, and then I also searched for testimonials, and people shared that you always have a tutor that is very engaged in the process, and is also someone who works in design, in UX or in UI. So that was extremely important for me. So you don't get just the theory, but also the practical side.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we have our first question from the audience. It's a question from River, and they ask, what is the best way to get experience in either UX, UI, or web development? So you can each speak to what is your own experience, but maybe Megan, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. I would say the best way to get into either UX, UI, or web development. From my own experience, I started with just watching YouTube videos and tutorials on like what UX is actually about, or even the difference between UI and UX, because that's really important to understand from the beginning. And I think when I was looking for boot camps to go into, I noticed that CF had that like 7-day trial to do to learn about UX design in your email. So I did that, and I kept track of it every single day just to see if I was really interested in that. And then from there, I started working on my own projects on the side, or I just met up with some friends and just like had a couple design talks, bounce ideas off of each other. And it's also really important to reach out to designers who are in the industry and just get their perspective on how they got there and kind of follow in their steps. And everything you do in UX design is totally accessible on the internet too. So you can totally like just Google a bunch of stuff and yeah, basically learn for free.
Yeah, great. Eva or Aladrian, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can say only that you have to just do it. I mean, if you want to be a UX designer or a UI designer, you just have to search. I mean, internet is like that. And then just dig deeper and just do it. And the first thing that I did, it was like searching for meetups beside CareerFoundry, because of course I was doing the course, but also meetup page, and I've chosen some meetups with good topics like for beginners, UX design, and blah blah blah. And I remember that my very first meetup was with Jeff Gothelf about the book Response and Sense, something like that. And he told me at that time that I should just do it. Not think too much, don't be afraid of anything, just do it. And that's the best way. I mean, you have to learn on your own mistakes as well. Yeah, just Just do it.
Do it. Yeah. Nike built a whole empire off of just do it.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
I love that. And I think for me, how to learn UX is really find a problem that you're passionate about and take it through the design process, right? Like, you know, we have the discover, define, design, and deliver. Like, how can you go discover, talk to more people about what this problem is, and then, you know, start to wireframe, design out your solutions, get some feedback from people on that, and then just iterate on your designs. One thing that really helped me in my course was I actually used the project to connect it to a real app that a friend was working on. So I would strongly recommend connecting the schoolwork or the project that you're doing in CareerFoundry to an actual real world like startup, a real world project, a real world like example. So you can have that sort of like real experience, and you get the real feedback from your mentors and your tutors to actually apply to something that's out in the world.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that it would be a really good idea for anyone to participate in any design talks. I know that, especially in the time of COVID right now, there are a lot of free webinars available, and they'll teach you literally anything about design systems, creating a team, or just micro interactions here and there. Yeah, that's how I got my experience from the beginning.
Yeah, and also just to plus one on that, reach out to designers. In design community is pretty open to help. So just I talk to anyone who would listen or who would give me 15 minutes of their time. And the folks I talk to, I ask for more people that they think I should talk to and ask for those introductions. So that's how you start to build your network and build your connections, and actually also grow your understanding of design.
Great.
Yeah,
And
I highly recommend that.
A great segue to the next question, which was how to convert your work during the course into a good portfolio. So do you have any other portfolio tips to share? Aladrian, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I can take it off again. Like, just realize that everything you're doing is design, right? So think of who your target audience is or who your user is for your portfolio. Make a persona for them. I'm looking at my notes right now, and I have like my persona, the persona of the person who's looking at my design, like their age, what their title is, like what their everyday activity is, and you really start to build empathy for who that person is looking at your portfolio and what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And then it's the iteration process the same way. Like I have my can I show you? Would that be good? Like I still like you see my persona is there, and then I have like my hand drawn wireframes and what goes on each page. Just do it that way before you even like, oh, what it should look like, what it should feel like, but really just like start small and really think of the person you're designing your portfolio for.
Yeah, I agree.
Eva, Megan, do you have something to add?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to add that I'm currently working with my manager on hiring designers right now. And some of the things that she shared with me is that you should always try to surface your projects up front on the homepage instead of having it buried behind a project's link. That way, it makes it easier for someone who's hiring you, like a creative director, to find your work rather than just like navigating through your website in hopes of finding it. So that way it's upfront and they understand what you're capable of doing. And like what Aladrian said, I think that you should develop a user persona to understand who you're targeting to. For instance, this is a creative director, so make everything accessible and clean and and detailed. But it's also really important that you document every single part of your design process while you're creating these design case studies, so they really understand what your design thinking is like, so they understand how you fit into their culture or their company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes it also helps to read different design case studies by other design portfolios, or even on Medium. They have a lot of great resources on there too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in my case, it was like thinking about where I want to work, how I want to work. I mean, what's my goal? And I definitely knew that I don't want to be a UI designer. So I wasn't really focusing on the beauty of the portfolio. It wasn't awful. That's not what I mean. It was still clean, and everything was like nice to look at, but still I was focusing way more on the content and the reasons behind my decisions. So I really focused on that. And what I did was that I created my portfolio on Medium. So I created like case studies on Medium, and I was just sending some links, because PDF or something like this, it's fine, but sometimes they just don't look at it. That was my also experience. So I was prepared for different kind of target groups, so to say. So people who like to print out things, or people who just prefer to click the link and see my portfolio, like my case study. No, so.
Yeah. And then
Great.
I wanted to jump in and add one more thing: is give feedback on your portfolio, the same way you would get feedback on a design that you're working on. Ask people like, hey, does this make sense? What do you like? What don't you like? And you start to deal with that feedback. And it can hurt a little bit, but don't take it personally. But it will help you refine and iterate on that portfolio. So you when you share that link out to that job recruiter or to the hiring manager, then you can feel confident that you put your best work out and your best foot forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. So for the next question, we're going to take it back a little bit. So like to the beginning of your boot camp, when you were first deciding this is what you were going to do, what led you to choose UX or UI design for your career path, and what about it did you like? I guess we can start with Eva.
Okay, so my story is funny, I would say, because before I was a digital marketer, so and I worked in e-commerce, German e-commerce, and my main task was email marketing. I mean, I was very much into it, and somehow I was practicing UX design at that time, even though I wasn't calling this really UX design. So I was like trying to show my team that we have to create a persona for our mailing, that we have to test the designs, that we have to test the content, and so on and so on. And somehow I stepped by the CareerFoundry course, and I thought, wow, it's exactly my way of thinking. So this is the way I want to work. I don't want to work like really in performance marketing, where just numbers. I just want to understand the behaviors on the other side of the screen, so to say. And that's why it was UX design. I just felt it like, wow. It was in me before I knew it's UX design. So, this is how it happened.
It was your calling.
And I can relate to that a lot, Eva. I was working in a digital communications role, which was fancy for solving customer problems via email and social media. So I was doing a lot of like empathy, like thinking about who the target customer is, making sure that the words that we're writing match the voice and tone of the brand. And even when we couldn't help them, and we couldn't help a lot of them, that they still felt that we understood their problem. and understood, that what it's like for them. And how I found UX design, I did like any millennial trying to figure out what to do with their life did. I took a career quiz, okay? And UX design was at the top of the list, and just like right below it, it was music, artist, writer. And I'm like, I can't do any of that right now. Like, I need a real job. So when shout out to all the music and artists, musicians, like, no, that's no shade at all to those professions. I'm actually really passionate about those things. But UX was something that sort of brought all my soft skills together and gave me like a tangible way to be proactive in solving problems for customers, rather than being on the other side, which is like having to, fix the problems or not be able to fix the problems that, could have been addressed if a designer was in the room.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. I think I can express the same thing as Eva. I was working in marketing before, and I was doing a lot of more mundane stuff like Excel sheets, like drafting up contracts here and there. And I felt like I wanted to do something more complex. And for me, I'm more of a visual person. So I started asking the creative team at ShopStyle if I could help figure out like a brand identity for a new project we're working on called ShopStyle Collective, which was an influencer marketing tool. So me and my boss at the time were the only two stakeholders for that project. So I wanted to develop more of a brand identity and work on email newsletters and just different types of outlets for design. And I didn't even know that I was doing UX and UI at that time, similar to Eva, until I finally figured out that I was talking to my friend, and she was like, yo, it seems like you're really interested in UI, like you really like interfaces. And I was like, yeah, maybe I do. So I just started researching like a bunch of different product design or UX design, user experience design. I was like, what is all of this? And then I came upon CareerFoundry's Bootcamp, and I was like, okay, let's try this out. So that's when I tried out the 7-day email, what is UX design thing. And I was like, I really like this. So I just went for it.
That's great. So a question from Ewan, kind of following along in our chronological path. So you've made the decision to do the course, and then how did you prepare for the bootcamp experience while you were waiting for it to start? Megan, do you want to?
Go ahead. No, it's all good. Go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay,
cool. I love this.
How did I prepare for the material? I think, as I said before, I started with doing or researching a bunch of YouTube videos on understanding UX, understanding the difference between UI and UX. What do product designers do? Daily life of a UX designer. And then I did the 7-day email thing. And then in addition to that, I messaged a bunch of designers on LinkedIn just to see where they got their experience from, what advice they had, or even just talk to other CF alums. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and I also tried a bunch of different design challenges on the side, but those are like personal.
Yeah, I think it's pretty difficult question. I don't know, because I just started with the intro to UX design course. So like I think it was 1-2 weeks or what? I'm not sure now. But I also started the 7 days one, the free one, Googling a lot, watching YouTube. And meetups. I think I remember that I was so into meetups and just going out and asking people who work in UX design, what is this? I mean, how should I treated? Is it like really UX or more UI, or how it is in reality? And I think I was attending many meetups at that time before the UX immersion started.
Yeah, same. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I keep notifications, so I was just curious. Yeah, but just to echo what Megan and Eva said, I was on YouTube looking at different videos. I think I didn't have like any favorite YouTubers to recommend, but just generic videos, as well as attending like local meetup groups and just asking questions in those panels and conversations, and staying through the network and talking to people, shaking hands, and setting up follow-up conversations. That was really my preparation, and enjoying my downtime, because I was also full-time. So I knew that, come the start date, it was going to be, heads down. So enjoyed that time off too.
Yeah, and I also want to add that it's totally okay to take a break in between your programs. I know that digesting a lot of information can be mentally exhausting. So yeah, it's totally okay to take a break and come back to it. It's always more about how you bounce back from your break. But I also wanted to add, I created a Medium article that details what I wish I learned as a junior designer or going into my bootcamp. And I can link it here. It just has a bunch of resources that I used when I was learning and prepping for the bootcamp itself.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to continue with this chronological trend through your journey of studying with CF. We have a question that is, as a student with CF, at what stage during the course did you personally feel confident enough to feel that you have the skills, tools, and experience to start in the industry?
I can
Never.
take it.
No.
Okay, Eva, thank you.
I found a job after 3 months of a bootcamp, so it was extremely fast. I wasn't really confident, but that's my strategy in general for my career path, that I have to just do it, start things as quickly as possible. I'm sorry, my Siri is awake now. What's going on? Sorry, I'm really sorry. She started speaking to me. Sorry. Crazy. You were speaking about Alexa, and here is Siri now. So yes, I just found the job, and I think it even motivated me more to do the course faster, so to say, because I really wanted to be prepared for my job and so on. So I really pushed the topic hard. And I also had a luck that my team was very much into learning process as well. So they wanted to learn UX for me, so I could really do my exercises with CareerFoundry, let's say in the evening, and then the day after I could tell them what's going on, what I'm learning, and so on. So that was really like a good way of improving the knowledge that I have from CareerFoundry. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan or Lee.
Yeah,
do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I can talk about 2 points where I felt like I was kind of nervous. So in the beginning, when I was applying for jobs, I felt like I was ready to present my ideas, and actually felt confident when I started meeting up with other designers and asking for their feedback. And every time I asked for their feedback, I would try to understand what good things they would say, so I could understand my own strengths and really play into that when I was interviewing. So once I realized that I was really good at certain things, I just felt more confident in myself. And I wanted to kind of reassure myself to say that it's okay when I don't know something, because it's totally okay to learn on the job as well. And then the second point I wanted to talk about was I didn't get really comfortable with my position until I was about like 6 months to a year in. I want to like say a disclaimer that I'm a really self-deprecating person. So that's probably why I feel that way. But 6 months into the job is when I started feeling more confident, because I learned how to talk to people and how to communicate my designs more efficiently and eloquently. And when I had that, I just felt like, oh shit, I know everything. And when you can really protect your designs and talk about your design process, I think that's when you're at a good place as a designer to really communicate and learn the art of conversation. That's really important.
Yeah, I can echo those same. Everybody good? Oh, okay. Okay. Something fell. Sorry. I can echo those same sentiments. When I was having conversations with designers, and I could hang in the conversation, and knew what I was talking about. They were using the same language, and there wasn't really any awkward pauses. That's when I really felt confident. But I know there was one point in the CareerFoundry course as well, like my UI skills weren't really strong. And when I was starting designing my first app, kind of going through that first iteration of getting user feedback on it, it was really tough for me. But then it allowed me to talk to my mentor and get some feedback on like, hey, how about you check out this? Like, why don't you think about this? And seeing the growth from V1 to the final version, I was like, oh wow, like I can really do this. And there was another moment where procrastination was happening, and I was recognizing that the reason I wasn't doing the work was because it was the fear or disbelief that I can't really make this happen. But in design, it's really all progress over perfection, right? Like you have to start somewhere, get feedback, and iterate, and then the end result will be the best that you can put out, because you actually had to do the work to get the feedback. So that was when I really started to feel confident that I'm a designer and I can do this.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned going from multiple iterations and the differences. I just wanted to throw out a tip to anyone to save your files and your assets with different names. So don't just save the same thing over and over again. Make sure you save them all separately so you can actually see that progression in your projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I wanted to add one more thing. I think whenever you're doing like a bootcamp, make sure that you set up mock interviews with your career counselor, because that's what really sets you apart from the other designers. And that's what really preps you for job interviews and makes you feel really confident. Because when I was working with Danielle, I was like a nervous mess. But after a couple like mock interviews, I was like, okay, I got this. Let's go. So yeah, I think
you did great.
Do that. Thank you.
So did one of the questions was, does the bootcamp prepare you for a junior role, or could you expect to be hired as a full-fledged UX UI designer when you graduate? So what are your thoughts on that?
Do
you want to get started, Aladrian?
Sure. Yeah, I can get started. I think it's a combination of your previous experience, like what your transferable skills are, and how you communicate your value to that company. So for example, I went from sort of like a frontline role into a full-time design role, like at the company I'm at now. It's because I had experience in marketing, like I had experience like working and contributing to different like corporate environments. So it was an easy, like it was a lift for sure, but I wouldn't say nothing I did was easy, so I wouldn't say that. But I say like CareerFoundry does help you communicate your value to those companies. So I would say that it is possible to be prepared. And again, I did tangible projects that had real world impact. So I really want to highlight taking what you're doing in the course and making it a real world thing. So it's not just like, hey, you were riding your tricycle with the help of your boot camp, but you were actually creating something out in the world that can make an impact.
That's great. Megan, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Would you mind repeating the question one more time?
Sure, no problem. So did you feel prepared to start in a junior role or a more just jump into a UX UI design role?
Oh, right. Okay, so I think this question is kind of tricky for me because it really depends on the company. In the beginning, I was hired on as a full-fledged UX designer at a startup, but I was also accountable for like marketing, swag, branding, presentations and stuff. But then I felt like that wasn't the role that I wanted because I wanted to be more disciplined in UX design. So when I left, I started at a bigger company now that's called Rally Health. We're a larger corporation, about like more than 1,000 people. So my role was now an entry-level UX designer. So yeah, I think it really depends on one, your experience, like Aladrian said, and two, the company that you apply for. But either role that you go into, I think it'll be beneficial for you anyway, because you will be getting the experience that you want. But it also depends on whether you want to be a jack of all trades designer or just a more disciplined UX designer.
Really good insight there.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is, I mean, definitely, if you finish the CareerFoundry course, you can feel comfortable. I mean, and confident, and you can start a job. The thing is, what you did before. So, if you were a digital marketer or whatever, and all of these jobs that you had before give you also an experience. And I mean, it's important to remember that UX designer is some kind of moderator, connector between marketing, sales. You need to have the knowledge. So if you were a digital marketer, you also have the experience to be a UX designer. I mean, it's a very good skill. Or if you are a psychologist, you are really good in UX in the sphere of research. So I think it's extremely important. So you know your skills, your resources, what you can give to your employer. So and CareerFoundry gives you like the skill, really UX skills. So you know the process and everything is structured. But you should always combine it with your previous experience. And then why not? You can be straight away a UX designer. Well, I don't see a problem. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Great.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah. I'm sensing a theme here. On a similar note, what was your biggest surprise or challenge working in UX or UI in the real world after completing the course? So that could be either in your first role or just being in the industry in general. Aladrian, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, so the biggest surprise for me is that like it does not happen in a linear process, and you have way more time than you think you do, right? Like you can take 3 weeks to a month to finish like one section of the CareerFoundry research or whatever, but you may have 2 weeks and you need to be able to talk to customers, synthesize those insights, create designs, iterate those designs, and present them to a team, that pick up those designs like by the end of those 2 weeks. And that's only for one like feature, right? Like you can be on a team that's working on several different things. Like for example, I'm in a specialized role, which is a content designer. So I work on the words and the content like throughout our application. and I'm a shared resource across several different Scrum teams. So I could be doing like in one phase of the design process for one Scrum team, but then actually creating content for another feature on another Scrum team and at the same time. So it's just really about, you have a lot less time than you think.
Yeah, I would also say that the biggest surprise or challenge, I would say it's more like the challenging part. It depends, of course, if you work on the brand side or if you work for an agency and you have multiple clients. Of course, it's the specific of the workflow is a bit different. But for example, if you work in an agency, sometimes you just have clients who come and say, I want to have the UX design, but then they don't want to pay for that. I mean, and they don't have time for that. And you have to explain that it takes time to do the research, that it takes time to do the wireframing process and so on. So I think negotiations are something that you have to be really prepared for. What's more, yeah, the time, as you said, it's sometimes you just don't have time. You don't have time for every step, and you have to speed up, like extremely. And I think talking with the developers. Yeah. Sometimes it can be very difficult, and it's not about because they think differently and so on. They have different priorities. And we have different priorities. And if the company doesn't give the good context, or if the company doesn't have the mindset that everyone should talk to each other and iterate even with developers, then there are issues. So then you work for yourself, and afterwards developer gives you completely different product. Of course, it doesn't happen very often, but it happens still.
Yeah, I can totally share that sentiment. A lot of issues come up with developers, and I think an easy way to kind of solve for that issue is just involving them in the process earlier on. Yeah. I set up a design review cadence with them, where we review my designs at the beginning of their sprint, so that way they know what's in store. And a lot of those issues kind of just faded away after they were like more involved, because they know like what's coming next, you know. They know what to expect. And then one of my biggest issues when I was starting out last year was trying to understand how to communicate with different types of stakeholders. Like when I'm communicating with a PM or product manager or project manager during my design review, in the beginning, I was really reluctant to kind of take their feedback. But as a designer, you're supposed to understand where their feedback is coming from and how to iterate on top of that. So one of the things that I had a hard time learning was that you're supposed to communicate back to them what they said and make sure that they feel assured, and then present your critique or your design idea. It's all about collaboration. It can't just be one-sided. And if it's one-sided, then your product sinks. So you have to keep that in mind when you're working with people. Yeah, I think, what else? Probably.
Yeah, I just want to add that developers are amazing guys, because so it doesn't sound that I hate developers or something like that. Now I work with developers that are just amazing, and they appreciate UX designers and so on. So just for the so they don't kill me tomorrow.
Yes.
No, just to echo. Oh, just sorry, real quick. But the one thing that's really surprising is that you were really a communicator and a connector as a designer. Like, you're connecting customer problems to business impact to how do we build it to like how do we drive value and performance. all these things, like you are the communicator and connector as a designer. And I think it's really empowering, and it also can be a little intimidating, but you just, it comes to practice and just doing it, like Eva would say.
What an exciting
Yeah,
job.
something that my manager told me was that, oh, sorry, but I was just saying that my manager was telling me that design in itself is 80% communication and 20% actually designing, because you're talking to so many people and you're a key stakeholder for so many projects. You need to really become a mediator for all the situations that you're in. So definitely communication is a skill.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a question for Eva from Alan, and this is on strategy. So can you provide some more details about UX strategy, what your day-to-day is like, and how do you find it?
Oh, I'm very much into topic because I'm taking part in a conference and I'm going to talk about strategy. My day-to-day work, it's, let's say we have a new client and there is some idea and they have some business problem defined and they say they want to have a product. And at that moment, I'm just doing a first interview with the guy with the client and the stakeholders, asking them what they already have done in terms of this project. So because sometimes clients already have personas, they have, for example, a business model or something like that, some canvas. So I'm asking what they have to provide me everything so I can learn more about that. And then it depends. If they have those things like business model canvas or Lean UX canvas or whatever, then I'm just proposing to extend some things. If they don't have it, I'm usually it's a workshop time. So I'm doing small research for myself about the target group and so on, but then I prepare the workshop and sometimes it's a design sprint workshop or like a strategy sprint. It depends. But the phases are like I have to first talk with the client, see what they have, what they don't have, what they want to achieve. And then I'm trying to sum it up into some documentation. If we have workshops, then we work on that. So we work on the business problem, on the goals, on the like the business model, maybe again, or whatever. It depends on the specific of the product. So it's really hard to say that you always have to do the business model canvas or golden circle canvas. It really depends on what kind of client it is and the project is about. And then when I'm done with the workshops and getting all this information, I'm trying to create a prototype. And prototype, it doesn't mean really like wireframes connected. Sometimes it's just a landing page. Sometimes it's just a post on Facebook, anything that helps me check if the idea or the solution we have is right. So like sometimes it's a really small MVP just to test it, minimum viable product. And then when we get the feedback, depends, it's an iteration process. So we go back and maybe we fix some assumptions or some strategic decisions, or we maybe make another workshop to see that, oh my God, guys, we did it really wrong. We are on the wrong path. We have to change something. So then we do it again. But after the long process of research, of testing and so on, then comes really wireframing. So I would say, again, a lot of talking, a lot of documentation, a lot of research, and then afterwards, it's time for wireframing. Like really sitting with the Sketch, Figma, whatever, it doesn't matter. So yeah, It's a long topic. I mean, it's a huge. I have even a few books here about the strategy, about the business model. I was studying this a lot last 2 weeks. But in short words, it's like that.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Ava. I think that will be really helpful to a lot of our students. So next, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you all about time management, specifically during the course and managing the course and life and anything else that comes up in between. Megan, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm a special case because when I was doing the bootcamp itself, I had already graduated and I had quit my job to focus on this full time. So the way that I kind of found the balance in between everything was that I woke up at 8 a.m. I did one achievement, and then I took a break at 12, or yeah, I took a break at 12, went to take a walk outside or something just to like recenter myself, and then I came back in and did like 2 more hours of reading on the side about UX design or just about typography or design principles in general, because I think it's really important for a designer to understand not only the fundamentals of UX design, but also visual design, typography, and just how to design for different types of platforms. CareerFoundry does a great job of introducing that, but I think designers have to do the due diligence of learning on the side itself, because a bootcamp is what you make of it, and you have to make sure that you are prepared to have a job after. And there were times where I did take a break or took vacation, but I took my laptop with me, and I just made sure that I kept up with the weekly submissions for the assignments. And yeah, it's pretty manageable. You only have to do 2 or 3 projects at a time, and everything is part-time. And you can take it at your own pace. So yeah, it's not that daunting.
Aladrian, do you want to follow?
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think for me, I was working full time at the time, so I mean, my job was pretty like draining, just the nature of the work. So I found myself struggling to kind of wake up early and, stay up late to do, like, I'm not in college anymore. I know I look young, but I was not like 18, 19 pulling all-nighters. So I couldn't do that. And, one thing my mentor told me, he's like, look, you're not doing this to get a design job. Like you're becoming a designer. And, what really hit home for me is like, okay, well, I have vacation time. I have sick time at work. I can string together little mini design sprints for myself. So for example, if there was a holiday on a Monday, then I would use my vacation time on Thursday and Friday and make like a 5-day design sprint where I was becoming a designer. Right? Like I would still wake up at my normal work like time. I would spend the full like 8-hour day doing the design work. Obviously taking breaks, eating lunch, going outside to do the design work. But that really helped me organize my day and actually feel what it may be like to be a designer by really contributing like 8 hours a day to it.
Okay, so in my case, I created a strategy how to finish the school, because I also had a full-time job at that time. I was also having German classes, and I do a lot of sports. So yeah, it was a lot to like get some compromise. So my plan was I just counted how many hours is per chapter in CareerFoundry, because it's always written there. I'm even now in my panel. So it's always written there that, for example, the achievement 1, it's you need some time to do that. So I counted, let's say, that the time I need and the time I have, and it was, for example, like 3 hours per day. Of course, not every day was possible for me to do this for 3 hours. But I really planned it in calendar. So on Tuesday, I'm having 3 hours for CareerFoundry. On Sunday or Saturday, I'm trying to do 5 hours because I don't have time, for example, during the week. And the truth is that you have to limit a bit the social life. I mean, of course, you have to still have the social life, but if you want to do this in time and it really means a lot to you, I mean, for me, it wasn't a problem to say no for a Saturday party, for example. So I preferred to stay at home and do the exercises. Beside that, yeah, I was like, I was very structured with a calendar. I was just working with calendar, writing, like, for example, on Monday, I have a job, a German class, sports. Tuesday, job, CareerFoundry. Wednesday, again, for example, CareerFoundry, sports, and job. And I was always trying to keep it. But of course, sometimes it happens that you can't do stuff and you have to catch up. But I mean, in the end, it's everything is possible. I mean, if it means a lot to you, it's possible. That's my attitude in general. So, yeah.
Yeah. So were there times where you didn't make the progress that you would have liked, and how were you able to overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, usually weekends were the time where I was like, okay, now it's getting really bad because it's already, for example, I don't know, a week and a half that I did nothing. So I have to do this on weekends. And of course, all the holidays, you have to plan it during the holidays. It's a lot of stuff to read, a lot to do. So you have to just schedule this.
Yeah, and I can add on to that, and I can add on to that too. Like, I am a professional procrastinator, and it got to a point where I was like, "Yo, I'm not going to make this happen." Like, so in CareerFoundry, they have really good visuals. Like, hey, this is your progress. This is your graduation date. If it's red, you are not going to make it to graduation. So I sat down with one of my mentors and really like planned it out and really calculated how many hours a week I would have to do it. And it was just getting ridiculous. So I reached out to CareerFoundry, and they were really helpful and gave me a grace period, which was really helpful. And then that allowed me to really stay the course. Because now I had some additional time. It was still it was challenging, don't get me wrong. But you know, CareerFoundry, the team is just great, and they really want to support their students to success.
Yeah, me too. I took a break and I worked with CareerFoundry to figure out whether I could graduate next with the other cohort instead. And they were really great about it. I think there was only like a 2-week difference between my time and my original time. Yeah, I think when you work with your mentor or your tutor or your career specialist, they're more lenient and they will do more than anything to help you with whatever you need help with.
Yep. And it's all about communication. I keep drilling that home, but it's really about communication, and they're really empathetic people. And I think, you know, they understand that this is not easy. Career change takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And there are some periods in there.
It takes a lot of mental strength. So I commend all of you guys.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we have an inevitable COVID-19 question, which I think a lot of our students or potential students will be eager to know more about your perspective on. The question is, what is your advice for ways to stand out while UX/product design job hunting during the pandemic? Do you have any tips for getting ahead of the competition?
Solve a real problem.
Sorry.
I think that's like the biggest thing is like solve a real problem, show that you're customer backed, show that you're, even if you do the research and find that your problem is not the solution or it's not the right way, at least show that you've taken some initiative to make some sort of impact in the real world. I think that's one way you could really stand out.
Yeah, I think that besides the fact that during COVID, many companies work remotely now, and they are online, and I've noticed that there are way more job offers that accept remote work. So it's like, I would say it's a plus in these difficult times. But on the other hand, I think we should use this time. I already have a job, sorry, but you should use the time to. I'm not doing for a job now, but you should use the time to improve, and I believe that sometimes something for free or like for half price, it's really needed, especially at the beginning of your career. So Siri is again on. I don't know what I do. So, for example, if you see the company that is that you really like, and you see that you could do something for them, and you are at the very beginning of the career path, just show them that you can do something for them, just like for free. I mean, it's completely normal at the beginning, and usually people appreciate that. I'm not saying that you should do this for 1 year, because of course we all have to pay the bills. But let's be honest, sometimes you can just give 3 hours or 5 hours a day to help others, so they can help you afterwards. And it very works in my life. I did a lot for free to help others, and then they came back to me with a project that they paid for very well. So yeah, I think sometimes doing something for free, or it really works and builds your portfolio. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to utilize Medium. I think Medium's a great source to put your work out there. You get a lot of claps, you get a lot of audience, so much exposure. And like, that's literally how I found my job right now. My manager contacted me and he's like, yo, I saw your Medium article on like a design challenge. I really want to have you come in. So I think where you can put yourself in more places of exposure, that's really beneficial for you. Also, do the extra step to connect with people on LinkedIn. Show them that you want to make a personal connection. I know that you can't meet up for coffee right now, but you can totally do like a video call or a Skype call or just like a regular phone call for 15 minutes. That really shows them that you're dedicated to this and that you really want to work at that company or you want time with them.
Yeah, definitely.
And also on a +1 Medium, writing in Medium just makes you have a point of view about design. So I would strongly recommend doing that.
Great, thank you guys. Okay, the next question is going to be the last question, and it's going to be for you, Aladrian. And it is, since we have been living in a very crucial time in terms of social justice, we would like to know if, as a Black woman, have you had any problems or have you ever felt discriminated against in the workplace?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And first of all, thank you for asking that question. I think we all understand that there's really a great opportunity for there to be more representation of people of color, Black people, Black women in the tech field. And I feel really privileged and really honored to be at the company that I'm at now, that isn't afraid to have these discussions and isn't afraid to hire me as the only Black designer at our company and the first designer or not at our company, I'm sorry, on our team here in Plano, and hire me as the first content designer for this business unit. So I almost feel like it's my superpower to be Black, to be a woman, and be a designer, because I bring a new level of empathy, I bring a new level of perspective, and it allows me to kind of be the voice in the room. And I do really feel supported at my company. I know that we're in a time right now where there's a heightened level of awareness around these things, but I would say own it. Own your Black girl magic, own what makes you unique, even if it makes others feel uncomfortable. And it's really a great opportunity for us to be interested in design and to be equipped with these skills, because I mean, I just feel like it's my superpower, and it's a great opportunity. Now, as far as, applying to jobs, I never felt the discrimination personally. No, I feel like if I get in the room with someone, they're going to be able to connect with me, see the value that I bring. And I really think on the job, like, I've just gotten a lot of great opportunities. I wouldn't say because I'm a Black woman, but because my talent and my work and my empathy for people really, really show out and show up. So yeah, I would say just own it, own your magic, continue to be yourself, and don't dim your light for the comfort of other people. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if y'all have other questions, or if you want to, get some more details or specifics about my experience and what you've experienced. I'm happy to be a resource.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. What a great way to finish up our webinar today.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. A huge thank you to Megan, Eva, and Aladrian for joining us, giving us all your insights about being in the program.
If there are more questions, just come to our LinkedIn profiles, send us a message, and yeah, we always can help you and support you in this process.
Great.
Just do it.
And if anyone who is thinking about becoming a student and you want to ask questions about the program, once this webinar is over, the page will redirect to information on how to get in touch with one of our career advisors. So go ahead and make a contact there as well.
Do it.
Yeah. Do it.
So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday and a great rest of the week.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, CareerFoundry.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for coming.